Hello and welcome to Rolling with Two. I'm Will, and with me as always is the one in full color,
Sarah.
And today we're doing a two-player perspective and accessibility for Chroma Mix. Now if you want to see our review, check out Rolling with Reviews Chroma Mix. Sarah, tell us a bit about this game.
All right. Chroma Mix is a card combining hand and tableau management race to the finish game. Players start with basic cards representing the three base colors of cyan, magenta, and yellow. Cards are either played to gain their effect, or pairs of cards are discarded to gain a new card with the same matching colors. There are 3 to 4 possible win conditions, and the first player to meet one of them wins. All right, Will, so how does the game change for 2 players?
There are no changes. You actually use all the cards in every player count.
Yep.
And there is no bot.
Nope.
But there is a delightful yellow.
But it's lemon.
So sad.
So sad. All right, so issues at the 2-player count is going to come down to skill and familiarity. If one of the players is played the game and is familiar with everything and has good skills at it, they're just going to easily beat the person who is new to the game.
Yeah, the biggest challenge of this game is figuring out the flow of the game. And that comes from familiarity and skill.
Yes.
And if that is just too different from each player, you can completely ruin someone's day and they will never want to see this game again.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's going to be very obviously different. On the other hand, the game might go by real fast.
Yeah.
It's just the other person's going to be completely confused as what the heck's going on.
Right.
Thankfully, that's the only thing that's kind of an issue. What it does well is you do have more control over your path to victory because there's just less competition over the cards. So the downside of there being no difference in player count and what cards you use is it's not scaling for the player count. So at higher player counts, there's more competition over the cards and stacks could run out.
Yeah.
The cards could run out.
Or the very card that you are needing to help you combine to get one of the in-goal condition cards might not be available because it's in everyone else's hands.
Yeah. So that could be an issue at higher player counts, but thankfully at the 2-player count, it means that it's not going to be much of an issue. It also means that the Sapphire goal, which is to get 17 cards,
And the card out.
and the Sapphire card out, is probably the easiest way to win in a 2-player count.
Right. So I guess one of the things you could do if you have a skill level difference is the person with more skills like, okay, we could play, but you can't go for Sapphire. Type of thing.
Right. The person who's more skillful.
Yes.
Got it.
And then they have to come up with one of the other because Sarah says that there's 3 to 4 ways to win. And what it is you have 3 that are always available: Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. You grab those cards and they'll have win conditions. Emerald is essentially points, and it doesn't have...
It really helps contribute towards the point winning.
Yeah, because it's like 6 points.
Yeah.
The other ones is you need this card out and these conditions met. Then you have like 3 other cards that you can put out there. Well, one of them. And that'll be a really tough goal.
Right. You only use 1 per game, but then you have 3 options so you can shake it up.
Yeah. To give you a 4th option for a win condition.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, that's it for the 2-player experience. On accessibility, unfortunately, there are some issues here. And unfortunately, it's with the rules. The rules are really hard to read because not only is it a fancy font, it's all in caps, and it is hard for a lot of people to read caps, especially with low vision or more severe vision issues. All caps is just really hard to parse that information.
It's like it's always yelling at you.
Yeah, I know.
With an accent.
With an accent. The other issue with the rules, if it's not already bad enough, is they use color sometimes, and they do have a couple of pages that are in yellow, which is the worst combination because yellow on a light colored background, I think it's almost white, has very low contrast. I mean, I had trouble reading it.
She's like, okay, there's an example here. Do you want me to read it? I'm like, well, while we're learning the game, I kind of need to. And she's like,
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Give me a second here.
yeah, in general, you don't want to colorize important text where people are trying to learn the game. I know it looks pretty, but aesthetics should probably never be chosen over usability of the rules of your game.
Now, I think you did ask if they could put files up that's just black text.
They are working on making a all black text version of the rules and posting it to Board Game Geek. I don't know how long that's going to take, but take a look to see if it's up. It won't solve the all caps fancy font issue, but at least you won't have to then also struggle with color.
Yes.
All right. On the cards, also speaking of aesthetics being chosen over accessibility, the iconography is very artsy and very hard to understand and parse. The good news is there is text on all the cards, and most of the time it's sufficient. When it's not, though, there are explanations in the rules that do write out in plain text the whole ability. And the only one we had questions on, I think, was the Burgundy Gold card, which we got clarification, and the clarification is posted on Board Game Geek. So I hate to say it, for the most part, I ignored the iconography.
Yeah.
Because even the reference card that tries to break down the iconography into its smaller bits doesn't help, because it's like there's another layer of coding syntax on top of the use of the iconography that it's just not easy to parse. And once you know what the card does, then you can apply it backwards to the iconography, and it's like, oh, now I understand what that icon is supposed to mean.
Yeah, so you're using it more as a memory device rather than reading it out and understanding it right from your hand.
Right. So
again, a more learning curve.
Yeah, it's a learning curve. Speaking of learning curve, if those two things weren't challenging enough, the game flow is also a high learning curve.
Yeah, it plays very differently because you're managing not only your hand, but the tableau in front of you, because they are very intermingled.
It flows.
Yes. So like one action you can do on your turn is play a card. Okay, from my hand, put it in front of me. It might give me an ongoing ability or have a lightning immediate action that I do something. That's one thing. Okay. Another thing is, well, you can mix cards where you take two cards, combine them together, and whatever specific colors are on there is what you can get from out in the row.
Right.
You can only interact with what's out in front of you if you have an ability that lets you to do so. Otherwise, it has to come from your hand. So, okay, that's another thing. And then whatever you make goes to your hand. Then you can refill, and that's where you can pull up any number of cards in front of you back to your hand. So you're starting to see how it starts intermixing. And I think there's one other action where you can swap. We never did it because they tell you it's the worst thing you can do. But essentially you give up a card to get a basic one, which is kind of like starting over, rank one.
You're only doing that if you truly messed up, and at that point maybe it's better to restart the game. But yeah, there's this... You have cards, and you kind of understand at the beginning what the concept is of you are mixing colors to get better cards, but...
Those better cards don't necessarily give you more cards, which you kind of need.
Right. The leap to solving one of the end game goals is not really apparent with the first couple of times you play. So you need to play a few games to start seeing... okay, these cards can help me get to this particular goal, or these cards can get me to that goal. But how they come up every game is going to be different. But it's that learning curve of, here's what I start with, how do I get to the end goal? The process in the middle is very challenging to learn.
Yes.
And then the last thing is, I will say, overall, the cards are very colorful and very pretty, but it's kind of overwhelming. There's so much going on the cards that it especially at the beginning when you're first trying to learn it, parsing what's important to you can be very difficult. And for me, it came down to, okay, I need the icons for the colors that's on the left-hand side. I need to know the ability text, and that's about it. And the rest of it is all flavor and fluff, which is nice, but it also can detract from the whole I'm trying to figure out how to play this game.
Right.
So, okay. But the good news is there is good news here. What it does right. Thankfully, I do not think this is colorblind inaccessible to anyone. And I've shown it to a couple of people who have responded that it looks like a game they would try. And that's because the icons for the colors are always in the same spot. So on the left-hand side, there is C,
Cyan,
M,
magenta,
and Y.
yellow.
And there's 2 droplets below each of those, and it's either filled in with a color or has a slash to indicate no. So even if you can't see the color, you can always go by whether it has a slash or no slash. If it doesn't have a slash, then that color is required, or it provides it if it's a basic card, or it's required if it's a more advanced card that you're trying to obtain. So that, thankfully, it's always static there. I will also say the name at the top is easy to read, which is important as you start to learn the cards. Then at a glance, you can just look and be like, oh, I really want an Azure. Oh, good. There is an Azure out there because the name is big and bold and easy to read.
Yeah. I know what a lemon is. I know what fuchsia is. I know what jungle is. I know what...
Yeah.
Fill in the blank. And
that's the other good news. There's not that many different card types for each rank. And I was just about to get into the ranks. There's 3 ranks to the cards, and they're all indicated both on the face in the upper right and on the back of the cards in the middle. So your 1 ranks are your very basic cards of yellow, cyan, and magenta.
And they provide 1 of that type.
Right. Then rank 2 are going to usually, I think they just require 2 different, or 2 colors. 2 colors.
2 color bits. And then they provide 2 color bits when you want to mix them with something else.
And then level 3
is usually 3 color bits. There is an exception. I think there's a key.
Yeah, which
color,
is black.
Which is like 6 colors.
You need basically 2 droplets of every color, all 3 color types.
It's a super powerful card.
It is super powerful, and there's only 1 copy.
Yeah.
So in the rank 2s, you're going to have multiple copies of each card type, but I think there's only 7 different card types.
Yeah.
And rank 3, there's like...
more.
Yeah, 8, I think.
Yeah.
So...
and then your rank 4 is your gold cards, and they're usually 4 color bits of various types.
Yeah.
Usually with your basic stuff, it's like 2 magenta, 2 yellow. That gives you ruby. 2 cyan, 2 yellow. That gives you sapphire.
Yeah.
2 magenta and 2 cyan. That gives you the sapphire. Well, that gives you the sapphire. The 2 blue or 2 sapphire, 2 yellow gives you the emerald. That's what it was.
Yes.
Trust us. Yeah.
Or you could just look at the pictures that we just showed you. Okay.
That also helps.
That also helps. The other thing, for as much as the card's very artsy, I am grateful that they didn't put the art as the centerpiece of the card. They're always off to the side, in the bottom, at the top, around the border. So it's there to support the concept. So like the color lemon has a lemon there. So it's a nice visual reminder to what the color is that they're going for. But it's not in the way. The other really great news is this is all open information. Even when Will was playing cards from his hand, I mean, you pick up everything open-handedly. So it's not really necessary to keep anything secret if you are having problems with anything in the game. And lastly, those harder goals are optional. So if you find that you don't like them at all, just don't play with them. Play with the basic 3. And there you go.
Or force the really experienced player that you have to go for that card. So that everyone else can have a good game.
That's an option too.
That works.
All right, conclusion.
For 2 players.
I think it's going to be a maybe, and it's going to depend on the skill level and patience of the 2 players playing.
Yes. Yeah, it has a big skill level difference, and I am a little concerned that with repeated plays, there might be I can solve this game and win almost every time if I pursue this, especially since a 2-player game doesn't have the interference of the other players.
Right.
So I am a little concerned with it, and that's why I'm also saying maybe for 2 players. Accessibility.
Once you get through the rules, which honestly, that's the biggest challenge, and not because they're complex, but because they're hard to read, Once you get through that and you understand the gameplay, I think this game is very accessible because they did a really great job with the colorblind aspect of it. Just put in a few barriers for learning it.
Yeah, I think the accessibility issues are going to knock out your mostly casual people.
Unless someone teaches it to them verbally.
Right, but the person who teaches to them visually isn't a casual person.
That's true.
So you're going to need a gamer somewhere along the line just to get through the accessibility issues of learning this game and being able to teach it.
Agreed.
So there you go. And Sarah,
yes.
What's your favorite color?
Blue.
Not cyan?
Well, cyan is very pretty.
Azure?
Azure's good too.
Cerulean?
Love it too. I like a lot of
just all the blues.
I will even go with teal, even the color blues that go into the green spectrum. And I also really like emerald.
Nice.
Yeah. What about you? What are your favorite colors?
I can't see colors. And why would you ever roll with just one when you can be
rolling with two?
And remember, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can reach out to us on the various social media platforms at
Rolling with Two. That's TWO. We are on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And on YouTube, please like and subscribe.
And if you have time, check out the other content Nanaman has found for you, because remember, he's rolling with you.